he was saying like kind of truths, but exaggerating so much and putting it in such different context to where I looked like a crazy. And I was like, I feel hopeless. It just kind of feels weird. Like, it feels fake, because we were together on social media and we were making videos on social media and like kissing even on other people's YouTube channels. And then in like reality, we were friends and kind of flirty, but also like not dating.
Sienna Mae has been sitting on this story for 3 years, y'all. 3 whole years of keeping quiet while people have been running their mouths about her. And now she is finally ready to spill it all. Y'all, there is a lot to unpack here, so grab your popcorn and let's get right into it.
He told me, I'm not gonna date you because I don't like you like that. But I'm also not going to make that YouTube video with you because I don't think it's good for the brand.
To put it simply, Sienna's last 3 years have been nothing but drama, trauma, and straight up chaos. So much so that she didn't want to share her story with people other than her family members and close friends, but after keeping it bottled up for so long, she said she realized that her silence was giving people free rein to make up all kinds of crazy stories about her. So here we go, back to 2020, because Sienna started her story right from where it all started. Smack in the middle of COVID, when we had too much time and nothing to do, Sienna happened to be one of the few who got lucky on TikTok. All she needed was one viral moment. It came to pass, and from that moment on, she was in her bag. Within 2 weeks, she had like millions of followers, and that's when she started connecting with the big names. The Hype House, the Sway House, all those creators that were blowing up too. It was also around this time that she connected with Wright, whom she had known from school, so it felt comfortable to collab with a familiar face. Little did Sienna know that this would turn out to be one of the grave mistakes of her life, because connecting with Jack cost her everything. But before things went south, Sienna and Jack had quite a run. First helping her out with brand-related stuff, and just like that, she found herself hanging out with TikTok royalty. On top of that, now that Jack and his brother were already deep in the influencer world, she started linking up with them more, making content, and it just kept snowballing. Sienna admitted that their videos together started getting super flirty, and of course, the fans ate it up. People were shipping them hard, and Sienna admits that at the time, it was fun and it felt really good. The couple's content just hit different. The views were through the roof. From dancing on him to all kinds of lovey-dovey TikToks, they played the game and they played it well. And let's not forget, she was only 16 at the time, living her best life, partying in LA, and hanging out with all of these creators that she used to watch from afar. And that's where things really started to take off. A few months into their so-called relationship, things started feeling off for her. On social media, they were the perfect couple, making lovey-dovey TikToks, attending high-profile events, and even doing press interviews together. But behind the scenes, it was all just for show. So basically, this was Sienna's first time clearing up one of the biggest questions people had back then, whether they were really dating in real life. It's been 3 years, but hey, I guess now we finally know. While their fans saw kisses and flirty banter, the reality was much different. They were friends, maybe with a little bit of chemistry, but nothing real. Unfortunately for Sienna, she was deep in her feelings, and deep down, she wanted more. But the harsh truth was that Jack never planned on taking things beyond content creation. Their videos pulled in massive views, and with them came lucrative brand deals. To him, she was an asset, but to her, it was all about feelings. Sienna also adds that she was between a rock and a hard place, because Jack would also be territorial if another guy showed interest in her, call her his girlfriend, and rope her in, only to dangle a relationship in her face the whole time. Slowly, the excitement of creating content together faded, and she found herself being used only when it benefited him. Upon looking back, Sienna is thankful that things never turned serious, realizing how messy it could have been. Anyways, after almost a year of living in this situationship, she finally reached her breaking point. She told Jack that they needed to set the record straight and let that ship sail. His response was brutally honest. He did not like her enough to date her, but he was also hesitant to clear things up publicly because it wouldn't be good for the brand. That was the final straw. Her mental health had taken enough hits, and she knew she had to take control. She decided to do the video herself, promising not to drag him, but to set the record straight. After the trip, she cut off all contact, no texts, no calls. But while she was ready to move on, on, he was panicking every single day that the video didn't drop. He worried she'd expose him. And according to Sienna, even before she made her video, that is when he decided to do the unthinkable. Y'all remember when we woke up to a damning video showing Sienna being inappropriate with Jack? And in no time, wild accusations flooded social media. Claims of body shaming, verbal abuse, and even assault. This remains one of Sienna's most memorable days. Like, she literally remembers where she was and what she wore the very first time she saw those tweets, and it says it felt like the ground had been pulled from under her. Lawyers got involved, parents had to step in, cease and desist letters were all over the place, but even though Jack's friend pulled it down, the damage was already done. Clearing her name would be a very tough call now that everything she said was twisted against her. Rumors spiraled out of control and she felt completely lost. The only reasonable stand for her at that moment was to step away from social media, delete the apps, ignore the noise, and focus on finding herself again. It is always important to tell your side of the story, but I personally believe influencers should try this, especially when in the middle of a character assassinating scandal. Not necessarily wipe out their social media, but just step back. They are always out here embarrassing themselves with these cringy apologies and explanations that literally make things way worse for them. Now, with a fresh perspective, she sees it all clearly. The red flags were there all along, but she had been too caught up in the fantasy to notice. Looking back, she's grateful she walked away when she did. Her team was already looking into defamation lawsuits because the accusations weren't just hurtful, they were straight up fake. But things got even messier. Apparently, Jack's brother and a couple of their friends had cooked up the whole thing, laughing and joking like it was all some big game. They posted the now infamous tweet from another friend's phone, Mason, thinking it was just some harmless drama. But when the internet grabbed hold of it, it was anything but harmless. Even though they took it down after another cease and desist, it was too late. Screenshots were everywhere, gossip pages were all over it, and Sienna's world just kept spiraling. She says that what hurt the most was that these were her friends. Just weeks ago, they were hanging out, vibing, living their best lives together, and now they were plotting against. She was heartbroken, but more than that, she was furious. Sienna also showed text messages from Mason's dad saying Mason had nothing to do with that tweet. That in fact, it was James who wrote it and sent it out using Mason's phone. The hate started pouring in. DMs flooded with messages telling her to disappear, calling her every name in the book. Some were even telling her to unalive herself. This would have been too much for anyone, let alone a 16-year-old. Her lawyers were on it. Her agent was making calls, but nobody was willing to actually fix the situation. Jack's side wasn't budging, and Sienna was left feeling helpless. They put out some basic statements about handling things offline, but by now, it was gone way too far. The next few weeks were a blur. Sienna was grieving not just the loss of her friends, but the loss of everything she had worked for. That was when it truly hit her that her career, her reputation were gone in an instant. But y'all, unbeknownst to Sienna, her next action was about to have her completely written off. After a whole month off of social media to figure out how to come back stronger, she thought she had the perfect idea. A whole song, complete with a video dance to explain her side of the story. We all know how that went. Literally, people remember it to date as one of the worst self-defenses and apologies ever. And if we're being honest, the lyrics seriously worked against her. Imagine being accused of SA, going silent, only to come back with a song that has lyrics like, "I've done nothing wrong, I'm young. I just want to get a little wild, get a little high. I want to kiss 100 boys and not feel like I'm tied to them." This video made Colleen Ballinger's response video look good, to be honest. Even though Sienna now says it wasn't her best move, honestly, the adults in her life failed her. It still doesn't make sense that her parents, agent, and even lawyers let her post something that would only make her case worse. Just when she thought she was in the clear, Jack came back with a vengeance when he dropped a 20-minute video titled "What Sienna Mae Did to Me," and it shattered everything all over again. These accusations were even crazier than before. He painted her as some obsessive, dangerous ex who broke into his house and stalked him. He twisted half-truths to make her look like a complete psycho.
He was taking like subtle truths about things. Like he said, I'll give an example of like, he said I broke into his garage, but I didn't break in. All of our friend group had the code to his garage. So, I mean, his house was like the hangout house, and we would all just kind of come in and hang out, and like I would bring over groceries or dinner or cookies or things like that, and we would literally all hang out at their house. Like, their house was literally like a frat house in the way that people were always just there, and not even like exaggerating, literally 10 people had the code to his garage.
And just like that, she was back to square one. Fast forward to now, Sienna moved past it strong enough to tell her side of the story. Her brand, Sienna Swim, is thriving, and she has a new man, Cole. Now, let's shift back to Jack real quick. People are circling back to a story that Tana Mojo revealed on the Canceled podcast last year about Jack Wright. Tana said that she had a wild story about a social media celebrity whose online image seemed pure and clean, but in real life, it was the complete opposite. Then later revealed that the person was Jack Wright. Tana claimed that people in Hollywood who actually know him say he's nothing like the innocent persona he puts online.
Who was Jeffrey Dahmer in the Halloween costume story? Do you want to say it? Jack Wright.
One of the creepiest things that had everyone side-eyeing Jack was the fact that he dressed up as Jeffrey Dahmer every single year on Halloween. And not just that, he even used audios from the Dahmer show online. People are now questioning why someone who claims to be a victim would repeatedly dress as an actual predator for Halloween. It's giving weird, and people are not letting it slide. According to Tana, Jack's brand online is all clean and modest, but behind the scenes, it is a whole different story. She mentioned seeing him at after parties at 9 a.m. doing crazy stuff, and the vibes were just off. She also brought up a Never Have I Ever game that they played, and Jack's responses were beyond disturbing. While everyone else was saying normal things like, never have I ever done Molly, Jack allegedly said things like, never have I ever had thoughts about unaliving someone I was in love with. And then when it was his turn, again, he followed it up with, never have I ever an animal. Like, what? After Sienna Mae's recent video addressing their situation, the internet is shifting its perspective on Jack. People are questioning everything he's said and done, and some are genuinely disappointed in him. The same crowd that once stood by him is now side-eyeing his every move, pointing out how strange it is that he profited so much from his accusations against Sienna. Let's not forget, Jack's YouTube video pulled in millions of views, and with those views came a fat paycheck. Estimates suggest that he could have made anywhere from $40K to $200K off of that single video alone. And the crazy part is that people online who know him IRL have been saying for the longest time that Jack is actually the one who gives off weird vibes, that he's known for making people uncomfortable with things that he says and does. They're even questioning why no one has exposed him before. Like, what does he have over people? At this point, the entire situation is messy. The fact that Sienna was dragged through the mud and labeled a criminal, while Jack's own actions are now raising eyebrows, is insane. People are feeling duped, realizing that maybe they got played by the clean image that he carefully crafted online. The tides are turning, and Jack Wright's reputation, yeah, it's not looking too good right now. Y'all, this situation is beyond messy. There is so much to unpack, and it's clear both sides have their own version of the truth. But at the end of the day, the internet never forgets. No matter what happens next, Sienna's story just proves how fast things can spiral online. I don't know what y'all will draw from these, but for me, I'll say this. There is always three versions to a story: your side, their side, and the truth.